We are live as people come in. I love this. We jumped from 72 to 118 and and growing. So thank you all. We're starting the session a few minutes early. I'm joined with Varun, co-founder of Clay. Welcome.
Thanks, Jared. Excited to be here.
Varun and myself, we have a nice long history in the time that you've been there. So I'm so amped. This conversation is going to be like a fireside chat. I really just want to get into Varun's head and strategy and share some of the things that helped make Clay successful. For you that don't know, Clay, amongst other accolades, well, first off, next 50 upcoming startups since then have raised quite a bit of funding. I think 64 million at $500 million plus valuation and all of that, and great revenue to match. But also Forbes next top unicorns. I love that they listed you first, whether that was alphabetical or not.
I think it was alphabetical, to be honest, but I'll take it. I'll take it.
Frankly, when I saw you there so quickly, like it added such cred. Fellow New Yorker, giving this city versus the SF side, giving SF a run for their money in phenomenal startups. But diving in, Varun, you came on the scene with such ferocity and such amazingness. What led you to Clay? Like, where were you before?
I think that's a very generous characterization, but I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm happy to go through my story a little bit. Basically, I actually started my career in politics. I worked in politics for several years and then transitioned into startups where I ran different business units at different companies. More recently, I was a GM of a business unit at this startup called Newfront, and our CEO wouldn't give me budget for hiring any engineers. And so I had to use kind of like no code tools to build a lot of products. And that's kind of how I got involved in the space. And this is a funny story, so I'll share it. But basically, Clay actually was originally started by Kareem and one of his best friends Nikolai 7 years ago. And a few years into their journey, they hadn't really committed on a product direction. It was more of a horizontal set of use cases and not a vertical one, and didn't have real commercial traction yet, but had like a product. And I heard about Clay in like a no code Slack group I was in, and I joined this webinar that one of my friends, a former employee, Nash, put on, and I was the only one who showed up in the webinar. And she wanted to cancel it, but I just we hung out. I saw the product, I played around with it, and I was like blown away. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa! There's like something really special here and interesting. And it was kind of one of the first times I felt software that made me feel something. And I was just really excited by it. And I couldn't stop thinking about it. And they didn't really have customers at the time, but I just talked about it to lots of people, and those kind of became some of their first customers. I cold emailed Kareem and Nikolai. We started spending time together, and I kind of quickly realized that this was way better than any of my own ideas, and something I was very excited about, and because I could feel the impact it could make. And around that time, Nikolai kind of transitioned out of the business to explore other ideas, and I kind of joined as a co-founder, and then we've kind of focused in on a couple of core use cases and have kind of grown from there.
Yeah. So you mentioned sharing with some folks, like getting customers in. Couple questions from that. Like, what was the product's use case at the time? You're saying it was horizontal. What'd you say it could do? How has that evolved? And what did they pay? Like, was there a business model or
There wasn't really a business model, I would say. I mean, I think at the time when I was looking through our Stripe, people were paying us like $50 a month. It was a more consumery kind of use case, and there was like maybe a dozen or 2 dozen people paying $50 a month or something like that. Uh, I mean, the tagline at the time, which was very clever, and I bet Nash came up with it, was like the spreadsheet that fills itself.
Yeah.
And it's clever, it's great, but it's very horizontal, and so it didn't have a core use case. I think what we felt and learned is after we were doing prospecting ourselves, we realized that there was a certain amount of pull from the go to market audience. And we realized that within that specifically, lead gen agency owners like our friends Jordan and Eric
Yeah.
were kind of like the people to start with. And the reason we kind of felt that way was because they felt the pain most acutely because they had lots of different customers doing the same thing, and they were technical, they were scrappy, they were entrepreneurial, so they could use a product like Clay, and that's why we kind of started with them, uh, and we narrowed the product use cases just to data enrichment, and we were like, let's just help these agency owners with data enrichment, and then we kind of went from there. So I'll just pause there, but that was kind of like the beginning kind of
What
focus.
so it was that against what was the other option you were considering at the time, like direction-wise?
I wouldn't say like there were other. I mean, there were many other options. It
Sure.
actually felt more obvious and authentic at the time that like we were getting this pull, so let's just listen to it. And then
Yeah.
very quickly what we noticed is as we were helping these agency owners, we would notice that they would start posting these workflows on LinkedIn because there was some incentive about that, right? Because they
Yeah.
could position themselves as an expert about this product. They could position themselves, kind of create social capital by telling other people about this tool that no one had ever heard of at the time. And we saw that loop, right, about us helping them posting about it, us enabling them to do that, us learning from that feedback, and we kind of chase that feedback loop over and over again.
I think one of the most interesting things about this is the agency part versus the same
Yeah.
problem internal, right? Because there's two people that had the same the problem exists at two places: an agency with their clients
Yeah.
and a company internally. Did you test the same problem in those two ways? Or
Yes.
yeah, I'm curious like what the outcome was there because this like it's almost like you stepped in poo in the best way possible.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, first of all, let me just step back and say the idea that we were, thoughtful enough and organized enough to like have experiments and tests is a gross exaggeration of the reality at the time. Um, but in reality, I guess that is kind of what happened because we would of course have conversations with lots of people, and there was spark and chemistry and fit with these agency owners, and we didn't feel that with the internal companies. And we did it with a couple, but more like very early small businesses than really like real companies, actually. Um, and I could see maybe how that could discourage people, but we kind of leaned into the agency thing because ultimately, when you're building a company, you don't know what the end point is going to be. You just
right.
are trying to get to the next stepping stone and earn the right to get to the one after that. And the stepping stone in front of us was the agency owners and helping them with data enrichment. And it was a good looking stone. So we jumped to that and did that well. And that opened up a few more stones that we could jump to from there.
Now, was the agency owner paying you?
They were, but there was a lot of friction around it. You couldn't even pay us in the product until
Right.
past 1 million in ARR, and and I would send manual Stripe links, and the monetization was really bad because at the time, actually, we charged by rows for some reason because it was easier to do from an engineering perspective as opposed to credits or anything like that. And so it was very easy to abuse because uh,
You could have
it's less
42
about having
enrichments in one row.
yeah, I mean, you could have like all the enrichments in a row. You could just delete the rows and it wouldn't matter. So it was really silly, actually. But again, the point at the time was not monetizing. It was just like getting the feedback and like feeling the pull and like creating those loops.
So the feeling the pull, like I definitely know that qualitative feeling.
Yeah.
Fortunately, like when RevGenius took off, I wish I had a quantitative. I probably could figure it out, like the
There
growth.
is
Like,
I mean, Rahul Vora at Superhuman wrote up this great article in the first round
right.
review that tries to put a quantitative figure on it. But I would actually encourage people to like, I think too many startup people like listen too much to the quantitative things and not enough to their feelings. And I think there is a lot more space and room for that. And I wouldn't over index on not listening to something just because you can't quantify it. I think most people's instincts are probably better than they give them credit for.
Yeah, and an example that comes to my mind, this is when I was speaking to Canberk over at Hockey Stack. He's like, "Yeah, we had these KPIs, but I had a personal KPI for Hockey Stack Labs in particular to measure success." He's like, "As soon as I saw people sharing this that I didn't send it to,
Yeah.
that's how I knew it would be good. I didn't
Yeah.
tell Amir and the people about this, but
Yeah.
like I saw that fast and like that was
Yeah.
great." So like I think the takeaway is you're gonna know or be able to feel what that is. Um and there's
Yeah.
gonna be something there to tell you and
Yeah.
just look for it, right?
Yeah, I mean, one of the kind of quantitative things in those early days is we were trying to build a self-serve motion. And so in the earliest days, I would do like 7 I'd call them reverse demos, but like 7 reverse demos with customers just to get them to pay us a couple $100 a month. And
Well, what's a
um
reverse demo to pay?
uh,
Yeah.
basically, at the time, it's the concept of like, again, I'm not sure I would recommend this for everyone, but in our case, it makes sense. But for us, it was just like we realized that users learn best by doing. I learned best by doing personally, and it was very clear to me that if we got them to use the product, there was a better chance that they would, use it after I left the call, right? Because we're trying to build a self-serve
Mm.
experience. And so, let's say I was doing it with you, and I probably did one with you like 3 years ago, but I would, you would sign up. We would send you an email. You'd book a time, and you would come to the call. We would send you some instructions. You would come to the call with like a data set and a problem you wanted to solve. And then when you joined the call, you would create an account. You would share your screen. You would upload your data. I would zoom annotate and draw arrows and tell you what to click in the product, and you would go through that flow that I would like step you through, and you would solve your problem within 25-30 minutes. And my goal was to solve everyone's problem, like one problem in 25-30 minutes, to blow their mind in the process. And and as a result, I would also get a master class in like UX, because I would just see what the user was doing, where they would have issues, where they would have hangups. And I would take that feedback and share it with our engineering team immediately, and we would make those improvements. And so this was a great feedback loop, because we would uh, be able to the user would sign up for an account, the user would complete like an actual problem that they had, they would do it in clay, so they built that confidence, they would have the confidence that they could do it after, and we would get the product feedback in a very intimate way so we could improve it for the next time. And just over the course of like 8 months, I would say, we dropped it from like 8 demos, 7 demos, to like 1 or even less, to have to convert customers. And then obviously now it's, of course, largely a self-serve motion with human touches when needed.
Now, were those demos for more agencies to bring on, or did you at that point
It was
break
across the
away?
board. It was across the board, but it was never big companies. It was always small businesses, agencies, earlier stage startups, things like that.
And I love, essentially breaking it down to you had lots of different ways to listen, right? Like from how you demoed, you did it in, as you called a reverse demo, but like a way to listen to their problems, use
Right.
cases.
Yeah.
Insane.
It wasn't like discovery though. I really wouldn't spend much time listening about their other problems. I would just care about solving their one problem in front of me, and seeing if we could do that. And because if you can solve just one problem for any person, you get a lot of buy-in. No one solves problems for people in a 25-minute demo. And
Wow.
so uh, at the end, if you can actually do that, they're bought in and they're excited. And they're willing to spend more time with you and tell you about other things, as opposed to at the beginning when they don't really trust you. It's not as worthwhile, at least in that context, to like do a proper discovery and hear about all their other issues. At least in that context, and what we were selling at the time.
I feel like discovery in general is company centric or person that asks it centric, like whether it's to qualify you if you could afford the
Yeah.
product or not, or
Yeah.
help uncover something that you
Yeah.
solve,
The
but you don't
best
even know if you
discovery
solve it the
doesn't
right
feel that
way.
way. I would say the best discovery doesn't feel that way,
Sure.
but, as I think both of us know, that's not always the case.
Yeah. So with all this listening, and I truly believe this is part of your secret sauce. What'd you do with that information that you got that helped improve your go to market?
I mean, I would say, like, a company is almost always about, like, fast iteration of feedback, and
Mhm.
we are trying to listen as much as we can. That's why we also have a Slack community where we handle our support so that
Mhm.
we get an insane kind of amount of feedback in that Slack community, even today. Um, and with that feedback, you learn a lot, right? You learn immediately what things to prioritize from a product perspective. You learn where you're getting pulled from a go to market perspective. You learn which customers are resonating and which customers are struggling. And you learn where to focus and prioritize and allocate capital and time. And that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Do you rank like the top challenges that your users have? I mean, I guess there's two ways to look at that from like a next developing the product further standpoint, but also with keeping the product the same, how to position Clay standpoint, right?
Again, I would say that that is like an overstatement of our abilities of organization and
Okay.
like preparedness. I would say a lot of it in reality was more ad hoc than that. Even on the product side, like it's not like we had this like, hey, for this year or this quarter, here's the vision of what we're going to do in the earliest days. It was very like fast iteration of, and we did have sprints and we did have sprint planning and we did kind of
Sure.
say, here's what we're going to get over the next couple of weeks, but the iteration time was like a couple weeks, not a month or 2 months. So the planning was very tight. And the same on the go to market side. Like, you know, a lot of the things, unless they were bigger projects, were uh, thought of and executed within a week. And not really like, oh, here's this challenge we're facing. Let's see if we can make progress on it over the next month or 6 weeks or 2 months or something like that.
Got it. And how are you getting most of your meetings? Right? Was it outbound, inbound,
It
third
was
party?
content predominantly, and it was content that was posted by, of course, our customers and ourselves. So I was posting content on LinkedIn a lot. Eric, who we brought onto the team, one of our power users and a
Phenomenal.
good friend of both of ours, was posting content. Me and you would do LinkedIn shows every Tuesday afternoon with 3 other people, and we would like live try to solve people's clay problems, or just like
Your
we would
outbound
ask people
problems.
we would ask people to come with like, "Hey, I want to do this crazy outbound campaign," and we would try to do it for them in the moment, And so we would do all sorts of things like that to like drive awareness and get
Yeah.
signups, and then talk to those people from there.
It's so funny. I think for anyone listening, because I was there firsthand, we were thinking about like a new future of outbound, right? Like what are the most advanced people doing or could they do if they had a product like Clay? And how do we create an atmosphere to show things that either Clay
Yeah,
did, could do, or have
yeah,
like crazy
yeah.
growth?
Yeah, and
I,
Eric was super helpful in that, to be clear.
yeah,
Like Eric, as and this his name is Eric Noslowski for everyone else in the audience. He uh, pushes the boundaries on what's possible,
yeah,
and he's still one of the most creative kind of outbound artists that I know. And and I think he, as you know, is a community builder. He gave us access to like a lot of people and who trust him, right? And we were able to learn through him because he's a power user. He needs the product the most, and he was able to push us to get better as well internally. And so he really helped us kind of like get a lot of adoption quickly within the agency audience and kind of move much faster there.
I love how you haven't direct explicitly said it yet, but like content and community, right?
Yeah,
Like both were key drivers.
that's right.
How'd you double down on that over time?
I would say it's more like content and support were like key
Hmm,
drivers than community. I don't know if we had like a real quote community back then. I think it's grown into more of that now. Like today, we have dozens of events, every couple of months all around the world with a community. We have tens of thousands of people in our Slack group, things like that. I would say it's a real community. Back
sure.
then, I would say we did content, support, and our product development really, really well. And those were our core drivers of growth. And they all fed into feedback loops, and everyone would do support, and then really technical people like engineers, to business, everyone on the company did support, and they would all do it in the Slack community, and it would all kind of feed into this feedback loop where we would learn about our customers, we would delight them, and that would feed into content that we could all create or our customers would create, which would then lead into demand generation, which would lead into the reverse demo and learnings that we would feed into the product. So it all kind of fed into each other.
And then your hires at the time. So we're talking about like now you're figuring like content, slowly finding product market fit.
Yeah.
What were some key hires that you decided on and brought on, like roles wise or or people
Yeah.
if you want to shout them
I
out.
mean, they were all kind of like power users, right? I mean, obviously, we were hiring engineers. Eric was a crucial hire. Other kind of early hires, like Yash on our team, who still creates, who's still with us, obviously, and makes a lot of great content, is like an automation wizard,
Mhm.
and feels it intimately. Matthew Kwan, who has worked with them before, also an automation wizard, amazing with customers. And we hired people who looked like our customers, and they were really versatile. They could create content, they could help customers, they could take that and apply feedback to the product, and they did a lot of different kind of work across the funnel, and that really like helped us, move the ball forward. We had like a pretty lean marketing team when we hired Bruno, like not even a year ago, last December.
Mhm.
He was head of growth marketing at Webflow and joined us to lead growth marketing, and he really professionalized and scaled a lot of the growth marketing motions that we had that were working in ad hoc natures but were not working in truly scaled nature. And so that was super helpful for us. Mishti joined to help us with content and professionalizing that and leading our product marketing. So there were a bunch of people who have joined the business team in that first year that were really meaningful in driving the business forward.
Yeah, and one role, at least in name, that I don't see present is like a plethora of sales development reps and stuff. You call different people different names, but more than that, unpacking like what's your point of view on go to market? Like and how do the roles follow that and support that rather?
Yeah. I mean, go to market's broad, right? It includes sales, it includes marketing, includes customer success, everything that's
Product.
involved in your, yeah, you could even throw like everything that's kind of involved in pushing in bringing your product to market. But I think from a sales perspective, we didn't have a sales motion until several months ago, and
Mm,
and for us, I was doing a lot of the early selling. Yash, Matthew were as well, and we realized that. Um, Traditional kind of sales backgrounds won't necessarily make the best fit, at least in this current stage. And so we hired people who look like our customers, ops and growth people, and we call them go-to-market engineers. And they're kind of a blend between salespeople and sales engineers. And again, this kind of comes back to that principle of a tight feedback loop, because we want this to live in one person, not be divided in two. So it makes the communication way faster. And we want product minded technical people. Even Everett, the person who leads this sales team right now, hasn't done sales formally before. He was an engineer by trade and a marketer, one of our customers, Advantage actually, and he's bringing and he's selling to our new customers. He's a growth person and an engineer selling to other growth people and bringing that engineering mindset to sales and marketing and things like that. And so we're basically kind of like bringing technical people, sales engineering types, and having them do both the sales and the engineering types, and making it very customer forward and customer first, and they're actually paid like flat salary, so there's no quotas at Clay yet.
sure. Is the sales process the same? Come bring a problem and let me help solve it? Or
No,
how does that
I mean, I
evolve?
think the process is, I mean, it's improving. Obviously, it's a work in progress,
Sure.
and but I'd say that like we have very talented team and a very hungry team, very product minded team, very customer first team, and they're getting better on the sales side. Um, and they have great instincts, and there are some of them that are focused on what we call sales assist, which is helping some of our self-serve customers get value and convert, and then there's some of them that are focused on bigger companies like OpenAI or Anthropic or Verkada or Ramp, and like getting helping them get a lot of value. um, and and so yeah, there's like a mix of that, and we're building the kind of sales motion process as we go.
This is exciting. It sounds like generating demand through content, support, what have you,
Yeah.
was the key driver. If you didn't have demand like this, you might be using clay on outbound.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we are doing it now, and we are using Clay and also many other ways too. Like Clay powers, I mean, it powers our outbound presently, and it also powered our like entire inbound motion. We message and we use it in very creative ways now as well. And like, for example, our CS team uses Clay to create custom songs generated by AI that we
Yeah.
send to new customers. And so there's like all sorts of like creative, wacky things that we're doing with the product to create value for our customers.
Yeah, speaking about experiments, I noticed the hackathon. I've been waiting for you to do a hackathon for some time. Like your
Yeah.
product has naturally. I'm waiting for you to do a founder hackathon next to
Yeah.
build SaaS products in Clay.
There's
Whenever
so
you have
much
the time,
opportunity there.
there's so much. Like, what experiments have really hit? And I'm curious for fun. Like, what was a miss?
In terms of like a growth
Yeah, from
perspective,
like
or
growth, hitting and blowing past the KPIs that you set.
yeah, again, I would say I don't really think we have like an experimentation culture.
Okay.
We have, I mean, I just wouldn't call it that because like I would say you should use there's I think actually the reason I'm sticking on this point is because I think too many times too many people in tech try to like A/B test everything,
Yeah.
and experimentation has a place, but that place is when you don't know the right answer. And when both paths or multiple paths are shrouded in darkness, and you're looking to the experiment to shed some light on which path is better, maybe. Um, but oftentimes, when you have an early stage product and a business, to be honest, a lot of the things are obvious,
Mhm.
and because your customers are directly telling you, you know, and so you don't need a test to see if something will work. You oftentimes just know it will work, and oftentimes it does. Now, that's not always the case 100% of the time, but a lot of um, experimentation, if you do it that way, will just slow you down instead of just moving quickly and improving things.
Yeah, I think what you might take for granted, others aren't even doing in the sense that your feedback loops sound at the top of the class. Like some people don't talk to their people. They're just like, yeah, it turns at 20%. Do you know why? um, oh yeah, I'm gonna get to that, right? So like I think that's a big root of your success. Believe it or not, like that's what I'm hearing. Um, because you're listening to and feedback loops, but also with the most power users. And there's something to be said about that and taking that and creating content with them. And because it shows that you're listening in the content that you create, it's talking to people that look exactly like your users that don't use you yet. And they're
Yeah,
like, where have you been my whole life? You're talking my language.
yeah.
You're doing that. It, it sounds simple, but
Yeah. I
it's
mean, I
very
think that's
nuanced.
why, yeah, I think like the feedback, you want to just get as much feedback as you can. And most decisions you make should be made in the spirit of getting more feedback from your users, from your from your employees, whatever. And then once you get that feedback, that's why we've structured the team in a way where the feedback loop itself is tight. And that's why most people we hire are very technical, because once they get that feedback, they can just do something with it as opposed to having
Yeah.
to tell someone else who's technical.
What's next in your go to market that you could share?
I mean, there's quite a
What's
lot
gonna wow
actually.
folks?
Say that again.
What's gonna make the thirsty Clay users? Because that's what they are. They're like so hyped to build another table that can now integrate AI better and send cold songs to people based on them hacking their Spotify playlist somehow. I
Yeah.
joke and sometimes say that Clay is in the process of making growth hacking more accessible.
Yes, exactly. I mean, what we are trying to do is make it so that anyone with a growth person can take the ideas in their head and bring those ideas to reality very quickly, and be the place where people can take their ideas and bring them to reality. And we kind of liken it almost to like, you know, there. So just to kind of answer the question in terms of
Yeah.
like what's coming next. I think something that we're already launching right now and launching more of is these ideas of like signals and triggers. And the key in outbound is reaching it's targeting is 99% of the battle. And personalization is important, but you need to reach your customer at the right moment. And you need to find the right person at the right moment. And that's when it's most helpful to them. And so we're investing a lot of energy right now in signals, like when people change jobs or when people visit your website or things like that, and make them as much as customizable as possible to give creative growth people like yourselves um, the primitives they need to tailor it to their business, so that they can take their growth motions to the next level.
And my final multi-billion-dollar question: what's the category Clay is creating?
I would say creative growth tools. We are building creative tools to help businesses grow, and as LLMs get more and more popular, we believe that work will get centralized to a couple of people, like ops and growth people, and those are who we are trying to empower, and we are trying to help those people bring their creativity to bear and take that creativity and put it in Clay and launch campaigns and scale their go-to-market motions with that creativity.
I don't know about everybody who's listening, but I'm gonna probably send Varun a note to the side about some crazy ideas that I have that nothing out there could help me with, short
Amazing.
of a funding round and finding all the right people that I could do in Clay. This has been so amazing having you, Varun, because like how much amazingness like and growth that you've fostered, but how real you were in just saying like we weren't that technical, but then also making it clear what truly was important, and that's listening to the people you serve and showing them that you are.
Yeah. Jared, this was great. Thank you so much for having me, and
Thank you.
happy to do it any time, but I really enjoyed this.
I can't wait to come and hang out in your office. And everybody here, follow Clay, follow Varun, use them too. The product is tremendous.